Here we are with part 15 of the Tamiya versus Monogram Miami Vice Ferrari Testarossa comparison. This time we'll be looking at the bodies as they're going into the paint booth and seeing similarities and differences. Okay, here we have the two cars with paint work getting done, and I just thought we'd take a nice up close look at the two bodies. This is the Tamiya, fresh out of the paint booth with a new coat of clear applied. This one is ready for the black trim about 3 days after the clear dries, and then polishing and buffing out the clear coat to give it a nice smooth glass-like finish. And here we have the monogram, which is going to require a bit more work. This particular version is molded in yellow. The original Miami Vice version is molded in white. The yellow has a habit of bleeding through the paint. Why they choose to mold it in a color other than white, I don't know, as it makes painting them a lot more difficult. The monogram, the Tamiya, was molded in red and has required quite a bit of work to get the red to not bleed through. These grills in the front are going to be painted black, so there's no worry about that being red there. But it's taken quite a bit to get the red to disappear. And it's going to take that amount of effort on the monogram to get the yellow to disappear. I don't know why these companies insist on molding in color and not just in white, which would make it easier for us as we're building. But it is what it is. Now let's take a look at the bodies themselves. The Tamiya body seems to have more accurate proportions than the monogram. The Tamiya also has separate headlights, which can be positioned either up or down, which is another detail the monogram omits. The Tamiya also has the strakes molded to the body, which will give you a much more realistic appearance. And the rear portions of the doors are here that fit behind the strakes. Now, what I really like about the Tamiya is this taillight bar, like as in the real car, is open so that you can actually see the engine and the exhaust through the rear of the car through a grill work that's back there. Same with the bottom. It's molded open and you can actually see through it. The same with the grill in the front, which is an open molding that you can see through, like in the real car. That lends quite a bit more of an air of reality to the car that the monogram just doesn't have. Also, on the Tamiya, you will be able to see the radiators through the door strakes, as they are open, like in the real car, to the cooling system. So overall, in accuracy, the Tamiya has it down pat. Now, as the Tamiya is the European version of the car, and possibly an earlier version than the monogram, there is no third brake light in the bulge on the rear deck lid. It's just a solid square to cover the opening in the rear deck lid. And again, the rear deck lid has open grills that you can actually see down into the engine compartment when the rear deck lid is sitting on the car. The monogram, again, does not. Now let's take a look at the monogram. The monogram proportions are basically all right. They seem to get the shape mostly right, but here is the issue. The closed off grills on the front and the rear means that there is no view into the engine compartment with the hood closed, with the rear deck lid closed. Also, the monogram has the horse molded to the body, not as a separate piece like in the Tamiya, whereas you can paint the horse, chrome it, do whatever you want with it, and then attach it to the rear. Painting the black trim is difficult enough here without the horse being in the way. Now the monogram also has side marker lights because it is the American version, which the Tamiya does not have. The headlights are molded permanently closed. And here you see the rear deck lid. Again, no open grille work like the Tamiya. Here you can see them side by side. You can see right through on the Tamiya, nothing on the monogram, which gives the Tamiya a bit more of a realistic look. Here we have the side strakes on the monogram, which have to be inserted into the body, and actually don't look too bad when it's together. So can't really hold that against the monogram. And here's the hood bulge here, where you can see it has the opening for the third brake light, which is molded into the rear deck lid on the monogram. Now the Tamiya, as it is the European version, doesn't have that rear deck, the third brake light, so you can't really hold that against it. Also does not have the side marker lights. So if you're looking to build a 100% accurate Miami Vice version, you will have to go with the American version. Also does not have the bumper extensions, which were added for the American market. You can see here the bumper pads, which necessitated them adding an external grille to the bottom of the car. The Tamiya is the European version, which is much smoother and doesn't have all the added bumper work for the North American version of the car. Now, if you look at these two side by side, you can see the sealed off grille on the back of the monogram here, while it's all completely open here on the Tamiya, with the horse to be added later. Now what I'm going to do is add some detailed grille work in the back, metal mesh, to simulate a real grille, and it'll give it a much more realistic appearance than the molded in grille work that the monogram has. So overall, even though the Tamiya is not the American version of the car, which is featured on the show, I do think the Tamiya is a better representation of the shape and body of the Testarossa than the monogram. Which is not to say that the monogram is bad, because it's not. It has the right proportions, it's got the right shape. But in the details, you have to give it to the Tamiya. Because it gives you everything and lets you see everything. Pop-up headlights, open grille work. And you can't beat that. So, there we go. This round goes to Tamiya. Okay, see you on the next chapter.